So this video is inspired by a commonly asked question or made comment, and that is, not that one, is it waterproof? For some people, and you know who you are, you probably started writing a comment before you even hit the play button. Waterproofness is the absolute virtue and feature that they look for in a bike bag. For me, however, I find that the answer is a lot more complicated. There's lots of pros, of course, to a waterproof bag, but there are also some real limitations. In this video, I'm gonna explore waterproof versus non-waterproof bags and talk about whether they are necessary. Welcome back, Pathless Peddlers, and if you're new to the channel, this channel is all about the non-competitive side of cycling. So if you like to ride party pace and live that supple life you have found your people, hit that subscribe button. If you're new to cycling or bike touring and are starting to consider which bag you should buy, the first big question that usually pops up is whether or not you should invest in a waterproof bag. And in the 20 years I've been riding a bike, I've tried all sorts of bags, everything from waterproof bags like Ortlieb's to less waterproof bags, but still highly water resistant bags like this Saddlebag by Bags by Bird. And I think the big question of whether or not you should get a waterproof bag is really dependent on a lot of things. One, how often you're gonna ride, how you're gonna ride, where you ride, and also the duration of your ride if you're touring. So let's talk about waterproof bags first. And one of the big virtues, big selling point of a waterproof bag is, of course, it's waterproof. Out of all the brands out there that make waterproof bags, I do absolutely love Ortlieb. They're really well made. They've got great customer service. And my first set of panniers lasted almost a decade. So while the upfront cost is on the high side, I do feel like it's good value for money because you do get lots of use from the bag. So this is our gravel pannier, so it's a little bit smaller than a big rear pannier. It's about the size of a typical front bag. And what makes a waterproof bag waterproof is the construction. Everything here is welded, there's no stitched on seams, which is great for waterproofing, but it also sets some limitations on the bag. In order for this bag to keep its absolute waterproofness, you'll notice that it closes and opens like a dry bag. So you stuff all your gear in here and you have to roll up the top about 3 times to maintain good waterproofness. So at this point, you might be thinking to yourself, why would you get any other bag except for a waterproof bag? Well, they do sort of have their limitations. One of them, by their nature, to maintain that waterproofness, they're kind of limited in their form. And by that, I mean, they're typically gonna be a dry bag style to maintain 100% waterproofness. So not a whole lot of external pockets or zippers, or even internal pockets and zippers, because those add stitches, and stitches are potential areas where water can get in. So if you like to organize in little nooks and crannies, these might actually drive you a little crazy. Another downside to the waterproof bag is quick entry. As you saw, you have to unravel this 3 times to maintain that waterproofness. Get your thing and then roll it up 3 more times to close it up. While that doesn't seem a whole lot, if say you keep your camera gear in here, all those seconds add up to minutes. And just because it's that tiny bit harder to get into, you might not use that camera or piece of gear that you brought with you. Whereas a bag like this is a Randonneur style bag by our friends at Swift Industries. Definitely not waterproof, but you can see it's got lots of external pockets here. And I love the closure. The way this closes is that this goes over the steerer tube, and while you're riding, you can stick your hand in here. Of course, because it is a big open flap that's not hermetically sealed, it's not waterproof. So you can start to see some of the trade-offs between a bag like this and a bag like this. Yes, this will keep your stuff dry, but it's also a little harder to get into, and there's no external pockets for those quick items that you want to grab and go while you're riding. So while I've got this in my hand, let's talk about the pros and cons of a non-waterproof bag. The biggest con, obviously, is that it's not waterproof. If you're doing a ton of river crossings or live in a place where it's super rainy, like hard torrential rain, not just Pacific Northwest misting, then there is a chance that some of your items may get wet and water may find itself through the bag. A big upside of non-waterproof bags is because of the construction, the makers don't need special, sonic welding machines. They can just use sewing machines. There's a wider variety of makers and also a wider variety of forms. So this is one kind of unique form that you won't see as a waterproof bag. It's big, it's boxy, it's good, and super functional. Another form you won't see as a waterproof bag is a saddlebag. So this is a bag I've spoken a lot about on the channel, and this is a Bags by Bird saddlebag. The material itself is highly water resistant, but because it does have seams, technically it's not waterproof. But for all practical purposes, I've used this bag on really rainy 3-day tours, and most of my gear inside stayed fairly dry. So while I did sacrifice absolute waterproofness, you do gain the advantages of this bag form. And this bag specifically, you can run it on the front or the rear. They've got 2 large external side pockets. It's got an expandable flap, so you can have all your camping gear in here, as well as shoving your tent inside. And it's this kind of open nature, this open design, which is one of the big advantages of a saddlebag, which is not waterproof. So for me, I view waterproofness as a quality amongst other qualities that I look for in a bike bag. The other ones are ease of entry. How easy or difficult is it to get into the bag? Organization. I personally like bags with some organization, so external pockets or some kind of internal divider system to keep things organized. And also multifunctionality. Is it a bag that I can use for both tours or commuting while at home? I personally don't think one of those qualities is more important than the others. I like to take it as a whole. So I will compromise on some things like waterproofness if a bag gives me easy entry and is very multifunctional. But then again, it also depends on the kind of riding you're gonna do. So the next thing to consider when deciding between a waterproof, non-waterproof bag, and this is where you have to be honest with yourself. Are you the kind of person that's only going to be commuting or going on a tour when it's sunny? Then perhaps you don't actually really need a waterproof bag. I've found when we've toured, even in those instances where I use a waterproof pannier, I still double bag things. That's to say, if I've got camera gear or sensitive computer gear, I will put that in a plastic waterproof sleeve or a grocery bag and tie a knot just to make sure, because I'm paranoid like that. All that to say, don't forget about using a liner bag. For example, when I tour, I usually carry my cameras in this rando style bag, which clearly is not waterproof. But if it does look like it's gonna get wet, I will bring a waterproof stuff sack and put the camera inside there, or a couple layers of really simple grocery bags. Another thing to consider is, of course, where you live. If you live in a place that's really rainy, then chances are you might benefit more from the waterproof quality than these other qualities. Another thing to consider is the duration of your ride or tour. If you're going on short weekend trips or overnighters and you can pick those dates so you have optimal weather, then waterproofness becomes less important. However, if you're going on a big expedition tour, riding multiple weeks and months and multiple seasons, then that's where waterproof bags make more sense. So as you can see, it's not so cut and dry. There's a lot of nuance. I know some people absolutely require waterproof bags, and if that's you, then that's fine. But I wouldn't throw all the other myriad of bag options under the bus because they are super functional and serve a lot of people pretty well. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? Do you guys absolutely need a waterproof bag? Let me know in the comments below if you haven't already. If you like this content, don't forget to subscribe. We're almost to 100,000. And as always, keep the supple side down.